Okay, abusuya aye $2 million aye Sky Train scandal. Abusuya sisi ano Attorney General Dominic Ayine say we investigations now war back it with aye evidence. Na say sisi ano omakwa akopie mu court na wa odin aye was aye $2 million Sky Train scandal ni biano abusuya yebe prosecuting ni ajiliwa abusuya enye asem keto akwenti Dominic Ayine e de ensem bi aba betudwa asisi ano ama NPP appointees and those involved in that Sky Train scandal abusuya omo ho po a enye asem keto akra na nensem a ode tudwa no o kire se en uyo bi na se osan so ewo any evidence on a Sky Train scandal na abusuya fabra na NPP appointees no omo NDC amanyuku na se ono Attorney General no onfa obia ho enchen nti no o kire se oba be proceed sa eye case no na ode ehu charges nso be den ebeba a abusuya enye asem keto akwanti eno ho ensem na ye de ebrema right now no eye fear and panic bi echese ato eye NPP appointees ne so a abusuya jogate ono na echese ne din epiema nipa listening so ebobo ba charges ne so enam kwan so a eba eno eho nsem na abusuya ye de ebrem ne ensem mrem me enko na yenkonkoti ensem a course na answer na bekono or ensem kan bi afahye your comment section like na share ma afofron so ensa into me enkabi aha POG Media so political trending stories and make waves no yen so yaje atum say rebebram bramase.
That was the subject of this press conference today. The Attorney General gave an update on ongoing investigations and then stay with me in this Sky Train scandal. You recall that Professor Akuffo had been invited 2 months ago regarding this particular contract and some $2 million that was in there and had to be accounted for. This is what the Attorney General said about the latest on this Sky Train matter and what the way forward is going to be in the coming weeks. Take a look.
In respect of the Sky Train matter, we have completed investigations and will be filing charges hopefully next week. We have established that $2 million United States of American dollars was paid by the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund without board approval. The only persons who knew and acted on the payment were the former CEO, Mr. Solomon Asamoah, and the former board chairman, Professor Akuffo. Both will be charged next week. The docket is ready. We know the charges we are filing against them, so they will be charged next week. Some of the board members have offered to testify as witnesses for the prosecution, and I am considering their offers. And usually what I do is that when you offer to testify, I sign an agreement with you, and I immunize you from prosecution either today or in the future. So that is what I'm doing with those who are making offers. So if you are a whistleblower, you know of any crime that has taken place, please come. Even if you are marginally involved, I'm prepared to cut a deal, and then we can deal with the actual criminals.
Well, so we do know now what the latest is in this Sky Train matter. All things being equal, the Attorney General says these two, the MD and Professor Akuffo, would be charged next week.
Yes.
That's emphatic. But then again, there's one aspect that he talks about which generated some conversation. I'll need some legal clarity. He says that when you offer to testify, he then goes into an agreement with you to essentially, in his words, immunize you from prosecution. What does that mean?
Well, people should feel comfortable to be able to testify. I mean, the Attorney General's case will just be as good as the witnesses that he has, who essentially will be the vehicle through which he will put his evidence on. You hear him talk about evidence, hear him talk about witnesses. So what he essentially would need to do is to be able to get quality witnesses to do so. There may be people who may be willing to testify, but they may be afraid to do so. Mm-hmm. What the Attorney General is essentially saying is that if you know you have information relevant to the cases that I'm pursuing, come to me. If your fear is that you will not be safe, I will provide some safeguards for you so that even after your testimony, you still be a free man to walk around. So essentially, it's more like giving motivation to ordinary Ghanaians who may have relevant information to
about
also
these
come
cases.
about these cases. Or even if there are cases that they are not even, he's not looking into yet, you can volunteer that information and then he'll do further investigations. And if you are willing to testify in that matter, because think about it, if the Attorney General is able to, is having a case and the people who are directly involved or have relevant information are not willing to come forward to testify, it will be very difficult for him. So you can understand him when he makes that approach. And he makes a clarion call that anybody who has information and is willing to come, let's strike a deal.
And criminal prosecution is not a walk in the park. It's,
not at all. Not at all.
It's as difficult as it gets. But let's go on to telephone now, and we'll get into a lot more because there are a few other updates on ongoing investigation. Adam Senano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Senano, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I know you did follow these updates from the Attorney General and what the latest revelation is as well in this Ghana Water Company Limited matter. Now we're getting to know, per the AG's detail, that another company owned by Kwabena Addo contracted to, as it were, provide services, internet service to Ghana Water Company Limited, which was between Ghana Water and a state agency. Monies were rather being paid, according to the Attorney General, into the private accounts of Kwabena Addo 1.5 million cedis every month. How does all of this strike you?
Well, it's amazing that individuals could, get away with this for so long, and there were no red flags at the time. I mean, it just surprises me. I think through our various, processes, and I'm thinking, how come nobody paid attention to that? The fact that this was going on, and it had to take a new government coming in for us to suddenly discover that all these things were going on. I'm happy that in any case they've done further investigations and that they have taken the issues to court. It means that they are quite convinced with the evidence they have. And hopefully we'll go to retrieve some of these monies that should not have gone into somebody's personal accounts.
Well, and the Herculean task now is for the Attorney General to be able to prove this beyond reasonable doubt. He also talks about getting people who are essentially going to testify to strengthen his case. But he maintains the point that even at this point, with all he has a watertight case to prosecute. Yes, I know.
I'm delighted to hear that because we are dealing with an Attorney General who has years of experience. And so he would not be saying he has a watertight case if he has not scrutinized the evidence and drawn the conclusion that we have the witnesses, we have the paper trail, and we can prove beyond reasonable doubt that this was intended to defraud the state and to take advantage of the position. And so to that extent, it's good to hear this. I just feel like there's so many cases that came up through the oral process. I feel like the AGs need support to make sure that simultaneously other cases are being tracked and money is being retrieved such that all of that can be available for development purposes in the country. So it's a good update on what they have done so far. And I'm hoping that the courts will also not delay. It shouldn't be a long, contrived process.
I see. Now, we're going to play a video. The Attorney General at the same press conference talks about getting into some agreement with some persons who are cited in this oral investigation, who are willing to pay back, so that, yes, if you accept that you engage in some act of corruption and you captured in the oral report, they show up and say, well, I took this money and I'm returning it. Because he says the oral work also covers recovery of the said loot as well. I mean, beyond the recovery, so that if some person who engaged in an act of corruption comes and says, well, I'm returning the loot that I took, what should happen? Should it just be taken and then the person let go, or some punitive measure be applied?
That's the international best practice. A few months ago, I was in Kenya dealing with their Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. They were launching their Kenya Integrity Plan, a 5-year plan. And it's the same thing. They have asset recovery retrieval units. We just focus on negotiating to retrieve properties, assets, monies, and they are clear in their mind. We will not get 100%, but if we get 70, 80%, that's a good start. And once we can negotiate it and figure out that it depends on the case in question, whether we're going to add community service or something else, they settle it using alternate dispute resolution techniques and they move on. The important thing is that you don't spend another 5 years in court throwing good money after bad money, and you may not even get any of those resources back. So there is international best practice, even here in Africa, that uses that kind of approach, and it is best practice. So I'm delighted to hear this. I hope that they have professionals doing it, so that it is not something that people just go behind and also then take advantage of that process as well. And so this is not surprising.
But there are those who also make the point that there has to be some deterrence, some punitive measure, so that you can, I mean, if it's just about looting and then returning it when you are being investigated, then where is the deterrence? Where is the punitive measure in that?
No, in terms of the negotiation, first of all, the question is, what is the value of the money? When was it picked? You pay this once upfront. It does not mean that you may not have outstanding payments that may be staggered over a certain period. So the fact that they are retrieving does not mean that you not be giving certain interest payments to make. It does not mean that you may not be giving certain community service to do. It does not mean that certain sanction components may not also be included in it. It does not mean that you may not be debarred. So I mean, you're a lawyer. It does not mean that certain certifications cancelled. So there are other kinds of punitive measures, and we usually they will call them non-custodial measures that we put in place. In addition, just to make sure that first of all we get the resources back, but also you feel the pinch of it. So to a large extent, there are non-custodial approaches that are applied to make sure that some sanctions also are part of the package. But all of these are negotiated, and it's on a case-by-case basis.
No, I do appreciate you, and I'm going to go for let's take a look at the specific statement by the Attorney General on the oral investigations and the recoveries. Take a look.
Oral is not just about accountability. Oral is also about recovery. And so, if from all indications, someone who has been charged with a criminal offense or in the course of investigations comes forward to say that they are willing and able to return the loot in exchange for a plea deal, which will mean, for instance, that either we let them walk away without, getting punished, either through a fine or a term of imprisonment, or instead of getting, let's say, 10 years in jail, we can cut it to 5 years in jail or 2 years in jail in exchange for a recovery of what they have looted. I am happy to do that. Very happy to do that, because that is the essence of oral, and that is what Ghanaians want. They do not want people to go to Nsawam and come back out of jail to enjoy the loot.
So that's the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, and Mr. Senao is still going to stay with us because that's another issue we'll get into, but it's a legal option to take about the plea bargain, and not necessarily let people off the hook. I think the concern that some of our viewers who are watching us right now express is that if it's about just going to have a bargain after an act of corruption, then where's the punitive measure? I think there's a provision in law.
Yeah, I mean, there's a provision that allows...
If you have a bargain,
yes,
to pay back.
And if the AG feels that it is juicy enough, why not? Because think about it. You can go through the long haul of trial. It could take you years, 3 years, 5 years. And if at the end of the day, it does not succeed, you would have incurred costs of prosecution. you would have lost all the money that is at stake. But if the person says that I'm willing to give you some amount of money so that we end it there, why not? So that's the option that the Attorney General is putting to those people.
Okay. We saw this in this ambulance trial case, you remember?
Yes, there were proposals for that to be put on the table.
So that money is lost, isn't it?
Yes, it's gone.
Essentially.
But Alfred, that's a thing that the Attorney General said, which I personally find worrying. The issue of wanting to charge people next week. I mean,
but announcing it today.
He has announced it today. Has he secured the people already? What if the people run out of the jurisdiction?
The MD for the SkyTrain and then
yes.
Professor Akuffo.
Yes.
It's a legitimate question.
To have made a public announcement, imagine you were in that situation and that's next week you'll be charged and you have a way of running away.
You know,
unless, of course, the Attorney General or the state security apparatus have had a way of securing the people so that they do not...
That is, if their passports were taken. Because both of them have been questioned. You recall that the MD was out of town somewhere in Senegal. He indicated he was going to come back and face the questioning, that's the NIB.
But we have not been told that any of them is admitted.
Probably there's something in place.
To secure.
And
that's just a concern.
That's a legitimate one to ask. In general, Dr. Dominic Ayene said about the National Service Ghost Name Scandal. This is the update. Take a look.
Investigation in the National Service Ghost Names Scandal has also progressed well, and we will be filing charges against some of the persons involved from the first week of May. Also, in a few days' time. Other matters such as National Cathedral, mathematical sets, senior high school Wi-Fi are also nearing completion, and dockets are being prepared for prosecutions to begin. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, my fellow countrymen and women, as your Attorney General, I wish to assure you that I have sufficient reserves of integrity to continue to perform the task assigned me by His Excellency, the President of the Republic. I have never stolen before in my life and have never received a bribe in public office. All those who have dealt with me know this for a fact, and the President would not have appointed me his Attorney General if he had questions about my personal integrity. That is why it came to me as a big surprise when the Honorable Member for Gomor Central, the Honorable Kwame Asare-Obeng, aka A+, took to social media to make spurious allegations against me.
Well, he goes on to talk, in fact, respond to those allegations and indicates to A+ that he should stop cowardly hiding behind social media to make baseless allegations. Well, this is what the Attorney General said at the press conference in that response to Kwame Asare-Obeng, the Gomor Central Member of Parliament. Take a look.
To make spurious allegations against me, calling me corrupt and a thief. Besides the name calling, the Facebook post in its totality was a palpable falsehood. I was never involved in the passage of the sanitation levy, as I was not a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, let alone to be in a position to influence the composition of the membership of the committee. And I have the Hansard as documentary support for what I'm saying. I have the votes and proceedings of Parliament. Unfortunately, I left them in the office. I think I have them here. Yes. So for the media, the report of the committee as well as the vote and proceedings are here. If you want to do some research on the matter that he alleged that I was involved and I channeled, I made sure that the membership of the committee was, changed, and then the monies from the sanitation levy were channeled to my friend, and so on and so forth. I'm not friends with whoever was the beneficiary of the sanitation levy. But interestingly, A+ warned me in the post not to do anything silly and that he will come after me if I did. That is laughable. First of all, I do not act silly.
Okay, abusua we ne ensema ekọ so e political highway ne so eye SkyTrain scandal NHS eye attorney general ahye ne investigations ase we investigation yes wa ahye ase we a chese oba be hye ne prosecution ase a enye asem keto akra ye bra mase semoje pene kokoti sa audio wi edema aha eye POG Media so bra mase